Hi, welcome to our channel where we share the most intriguing stories. At 2:14 a.m., my phone exploded with noise and my quiet life shattered. A ruthless HOA queen hijacked my lake house, turned it into a nightclub, and forged my signature. But she forgot one thing. I'm a Marine, and she just declared war on the wrong man. I was dead asleep when my phone exploded with sound on the nightstand. Not rang, exploded. The ringtone I assigned to emergency contacts is loud enough to make a corpse do push-ups. I fumbled in the dark, smacked the lamp, cursed, and finally grabbed the phone. 2:14 a.m. No one calls at 2:14 a.m. with good news. Tom, honey, are you awake? Only one person opens a conversation like that. My elderly neighbor from the countryside, Mrs. Jenkins. Sweet lady, makes cookies, waters plants, the kind of human angel Hallmark would cast as a grandmother. But right now, her voice was trembling. There are lights, cars, loud music, people going into your house. My brain didn't load that correctly. Going into my house? Yes, your lake house. And I think I saw Karen with them. That woke me up faster than a bucket of ice water. Karen, president of the neighborhood HOA, professional tyrant, the kind of woman who power walks with a clipboard like it's a weapon. I wasn't even part of the HOA. My house stands outside their jurisdiction, but Karen behaved as if that just meant I was her unfinished project. You're sure it's her? She marched in like the Queen of England. And your security cameras aren't showing anything. Your system site just says, offline. Honey, I think something is wrong. Offline. The only way the cameras go offline is if someone disables the system from inside the house. I sat up, fully awake. Stay inside, lock your doors. Don't go near them. Oh, I'm not getting involved, she whispered quickly. I just thought you should know. I hung up, adrenaline already flooding my veins. The lake house isn't a small cabin. It's a full-sized modern home. 3 bedrooms, glass back wall facing the lake, a private dock, and a security system that cost more than some people's cars. I bought it after leaving the Marines. A place to breathe. A place that was mine. And some entitled HOA dictator had just decided it was a nightclub. I yanked on jeans, boots, and threw a jacket over a t-shirt. On reflex, my hand hovered over my gun safe. Then I stopped. No, bringing a firearm into the situation was a very quick way to end up on the evening news. Instead, I grabbed my keys and texted a group chat labeled Devils of Lima Company, Marine Brothers. The kind of guys you would trust in a firefight, or even worse, Black Friday at Walmart. Me, emergency. Someone broke into the lake house. Meeting point, gas station on Route 7. Now. Jack responded instantly. On my way. Then Mario. Finally, some cardio. 15 minutes later, I pulled into the gas station. They were already there, standing in the cold, sipping burnt gas station coffee like it was combat fuel. Jack, built like a refrigerator. Mario, built like the refrigerator that fell on someone. Who we killing? Mario asked casually. No killing, I said, starting the engine again. Just removing trash. As the miles passed, I briefed them. Cameras offline. Music. Cars. Karen. Mario snorted. The clipboard goblin? The one who threatened to fine you because your mailbox wasn't community-approved wood stain? That's the one. Thought so. He cracked his knuckles. I have wanted to trip her for months. When we turned onto the last rural stretch of road, I could already hear the bass. Deep. Heavy, shaking the trees. Then we crested the small hill and saw it. My house was lit up like a damn yacht club party. Cars were parked everywhere, on my grass, along the driveway, blocking my boat ramp. Bright, multicolored lights flashed through the windows. People were dancing on the deck. Someone was grilling on my patio grill. What the hell, Jack muttered. I slowed the truck. A drunk couple staggered across the driveway and didn't even look up. The bass vibrated through the steering wheel. The security keypad by the door hung open, wires exposed. They had ripped it apart. My jaw clenched so hard my teeth hurt. Mario whistled. Wow, they didn't break in, they moved in. I should have felt afraid. This wasn't just trespassing, this was an invasion. But instead, I felt something sharper, focus. Not anger yet, not revenge, just cold, trained clarity. We stepped out of the truck. People noticed us. 3 pissed-off, military-looking guys walking with purpose. A few drunks moved out of our way instinctively. A woman in an expensive dress saw us and frowned. Are you the strippers Karen hired? you're late." Jack smiled pleasantly. "Ma'am, if we start taking clothes off, someone's going to jail." We pushed past her and crossed the deck to the sliding doors. I slid the door open. Heat, music, lights, bodies. A living room full of strangers dancing, spilling drinks, kissing, grinding on my furniture. My furniture. A guy was sitting on my kitchen island eating a rotisserie chicken with his bare hands. Then I saw her. Karen stood in the center of my living room with a wine glass. She was giving some kind of speech to a small group of women. "And once the paperwork is finalized, I'll have full temporary control of the property. Honestly, he should thank me. He has no idea how to manage a home of this size." Then she spotted me. Her face froze. Then she smiled, a smile so fake it belonged in a museum of fraud. "Oh, Tom, you came back early." I stepped forward. "Turn the music off. Party's over." She sipped her wine. "Relax. I have a document showing you gave me access." "A document? What document?" She held up a folded sheet. "A signed authorization. You gave me permission to host community events here. I never signed anything." "Well," she said, shrugging, "you obviously forgot." Jack leaned in and murmured, "She's about to forget her teeth." Before I could respond, some drunk frat boy tried to step between us. "Hey man, chill. Karen said this place is rented through a premium service, like Airbnb but exclusive. She even gave us the Wi-Fi password." I stared at him. "How much did you pay her?" He hiccuped. $200. Cash." Karen's face twitched. That's when the anger finally hit. Not blazing. Cold, controlled, lethal. I took one step forward, locked eyes with her. "You broke in. You disabled my security system. You sold access to my home." She tilted her chin up. "You can't prove anything." "Oh, Karen, you just declared war." Music thumped through the walls, heavy enough that I could feel it in my ribs. The house smelled like beer, perfume, and something that suspiciously resembled burning plastic. Jack nudged me and pointed toward the living room, where a guy was trying to light a hookah directly under a smoke detector. Classy. I didn't shout. Didn't wave my arms. I just walked to the sound system and pulled the plug from the wall. Silence slammed into the room like a stun grenade. Dozens of strangers turned toward me. A few blinked slowly, trying to understand why the universe stopped vibrating. Someone booed. Someone else yelled that I killed the vibe. Karen stormed toward me, heels clicking like gunshots. "Tom, you cannot just—" I held up a hand. "Everyone, out!" A chorus of offended gasps rippled through the drunk crowd. A girl wearing a feather boa threw her hands up dramatically. "He can't tell us to leave. Karen said this was a community-owned venue." Community-owned venue. That was a new level of insanity. A tall, sweaty dude swaggered toward me, beer bottle dangling from his hand. "Relax, man. Karen booked this place. We paid. You paid her to party in my house." He jabbed a finger into my chest. "Hey, don't get aggressive." I smiled, a thin, sharp smile that usually made new recruits in the Marines shut up and rethink their life choices. "Buddy, if I get aggressive, you'll know." Jack laughed quietly behind me, which didn't help. But then a voice cut through the tension. "Excuse me, who exactly are you?" The question came from a man near the back, mid-40s, simple button-down shirt, glasses, holding a plastic cup of soda like he felt obligated to. Unlike everyone else, he wasn't drunk, or loud, or stupid. He was just watching, carefully. "Owner," I answered. His brows rose a fraction, not in shock, more like confirmation. Then he nodded once, almost politely. "Interesting." But before I could think more about it, chaos resumed. A different drunk, this one shirtless for no good reason, decided he was going to defend Karen's honor. He swung at Jack. Wrong move. Jack caught his wrist in midair, twisted, and the guy face-planted into my hardwood floor with a sound like a dropped watermelon. People screamed. Someone yelled that we were assaulting party guests. Mario blocked another guy who tried to jump me, flipping him over the back of the couch like a sack of laundry. I didn't even have to throw a punch. My Marines were poetry in motion. Violent, efficient poetry. "Everyone outside," I repeated louder. But instead of leaving, someone grabbed a Bluetooth speaker and tried to restart the party. Karen shoved herself in front of me, red-faced and shaking. "You need to stop this. You are violating the agreement." "What agreement?" Her eyes flashed. She yanked that same folded paper from her purse. "This is a signed authorization from you, granting me temporary control over the property. As acting HOA president, You're not HOA president of this property. This house isn't part of your association." She thrust the paper in my face like a holy relic. It is now. I snatched it before she could react. The signature, my supposed signature, looked like a child forged it with their non-dominant hand. This is fake. Prove it, she hissed. Jack leaned over my shoulder. I could prove it by tracing the ink back to your lying face. But another voice, calm, clear, spoke up from behind us. I'd be careful with that document, ma'am. We all turned. It was the quiet man in the button-down, Mr. Plastic Cup of Soda. He stepped toward us, revealing a badge clipped discreetly under his jacket. Police. My name is Officer James Blunt, he said, voice steady. I'm here on an unrelated investigation, but I just witnessed suspected forgery, willful property damage, and possible fraud involving paid entry to a private residence. Karen's mouth fell open so wide a small bird could have flown in. You're a cop, she squeaked. Undercover, he corrected, and currently very interested in how you acquired that signature. Karen tried to snatch the paper back, but I held it out of reach. Mario didn't move, but his presence alone made her hesitate. Shouts broke out near the backyard as more of her guests realized things were collapsing. Then the inevitable happened. Red and blue lights flashed through the window. Police sirens cut through the night. Someone shouted, "Cops!" And suddenly, half the party tried to push through the sliding door at once. People tripped, cursed, scrambled over lawn chairs. One guy dove into the lake for reasons known only to God. I watched them scatter and couldn't help smiling. Officer Blunt leaned toward me. His voice dropped to a low murmur. Don't leave. Let me handle the statements. He slid his badge fully into view. And, for what it's worth, your house? Hell of a place. Sorry it got treated like a frat dumpster. Karen spun toward him, desperate. This is all a misunderstanding, she shrieked. I was trying to improve the community, but no one cared. The other officers were already coming up the deck, taking in the scene with the expression every cop gets when they realize their night just got longer, and I just stood there, surrounded by chaos, holding a forged document. Karen had broken into my house. She disabled my security system. She sold access to strangers. Now there was a cop, a witness, who saw everything. Her eyes met mine. For the first time, I saw it. Fear. Good. This was just the beginning. The sun was just starting to bleed into the sky by the time I was sitting on a cold plastic chair inside the local precinct, sipping burnt coffee and staring at a blank wall like it owed me rent. I'd been in interrogation rooms before, on both sides of the table, but never because my own house had been used as a pop-up nightclub by an HOA dictator with a god complex. Across from me sat a young officer with a clipboard and bags under his eyes. He looked like he'd had a long night, and I was about to make it longer. Let me get this straight, he said, flipping through notes. You're Thomas Harper, owner of the property at 276 Lakeside Drive. Yes. You were not present when the party began? Correct. You received a phone call from a neighbor, arrived with two friends, and found what you described as a fully unauthorized party occurring inside your residence? I took a sip of coffee. More like a half-priced Vegas orgy hosted by real estate Karens. He blinked, didn't laugh. Tough crowd. And this woman, Karen Johnson, claims she had authorization to use the house? She waved a forged document in my face, yes. The officer looked skeptical. Are you able to prove it's forged? Her version claims I signed it 3 weeks ago. I was in South Carolina at a training camp for Marine veterans that entire week. I've got timestamps, photos, and travel logs. He scratched something down. And your security system was offline when you tried to check the cameras remotely? Yes. She disabled the hub manually. The box was hanging open when I got there. He gave a small nod. That one mattered. A knock on the door. Officer Blunt stepped in, the undercover guy from the party. He looked far more relaxed now that he was in uniform, but his presence still carried the quiet weight of someone who sees everything. Morning, Harper. Officer. He glanced at the younger cop. You mind giving us the room? Clipboard guy nodded and left. Blunt sat across from me and set down a small USB drive. Security footage, he said, from my body cam. It captured a good chunk of the evening, including her stating she had full control of the house, calling it a community asset, and laughing about your lack of awareness. I raised an eyebrow. Please tell me you got the part where she said I was too dumb to manage my own property. She did, in fact, twice. He leaned back. Also got some conversations where guests mentioned they paid cash to her directly. Between that and the document, we've got a strong case. I tilted my head. How'd you end up at the party in the first place? Blunt smiled faintly. Ongoing investigation. We've had several complaints about unauthorized use of private properties by HOA leadership in this district. Your situation confirmed a few suspicions. My eyebrows went up. She's done this before. Not this brazenly. But there have been rumors, claims of community events being hosted in empty homes, questionable Airbnb listings, that sort of thing. Nothing stuck. Until now. I leaned back in my chair. Well, I'm happy to be the straw that breaks the clipboard. He grinned at that. We've got enough to move forward on criminal trespass, unlawful use of property, possible wire tampering, and fraud. But we'll need more if we want this to stick as a full-scale operation. I've got more, I said, reaching into my jacket. I pulled out a folded envelope. Inside were emails, screenshots from the past year. Karen had sent them directly to me and a few neighbors. Always passive-aggressive, always dancing just short of outright threats. One stood out. It would be better for everyone if properties like yours were absorbed under community guidance. You clearly don't understand how to manage a home of that scale. Blunt read it, whistled low. That's bold. She thought I'd never fight back. Probably counted on me being too passive, or stupid, or male, he added. She's used to intimidating retirees, single moms, people who don't have backup. She picked the wrong Marine. Blunt pocketed the envelope. We're also interviewing party guests. Most are still hung over, but a few already admitted she sold entry under the table, said she called it a community fundraiser. Fundraiser for what? Her wine budget. No receipts, no trail. That's tax fraud too if it pans out. Another knock. The door opened again, and this time an officer poked his head in with a look of tired amusement. Harper, you'll want to hear this. One of Karen's closest friends, Joan something, just cracked. She wants to make a full statement. That name made me sit forward. Joan. The tall, tense woman who hovered behind Karen most of the night, clutching her purse like a lifeline. She's flipping. Hard. Says Karen manipulated her, used her address to route payments, and threatened to ruin her reputation if she ever talked. She's ready to burn Karen to the ground. Get her a chair and a good lawyer. The officer grinned. Already on it. As he left, I exhaled. Slowly. This was bigger than a party, bigger than a broken window or loud music. Karen had built a little empire of intimidation, forged documents, manipulated neighbors, even used her friends like cutouts. And now it was collapsing. Blunt stood. We're going to collect everything. Digital records, witness statements, financials, the works. He paused at the door. You ever find anything else that feels off? Let me know. I nodded. There was something else. I hadn't told them yet. When I went into the master bedroom that night, after the crowd cleared, after the cops arrived, I noticed the bookshelf was crooked. Nothing major, just off by a few inches. I pulled it back, expecting maybe a dropped book or a shift from bass vibrations. Instead, I found a small black pinhole camera embedded in the wall, wired in. Later, I found another in the vent of my home office. Those weren't mine. I'd be sharing that soon enough. But for now, I just wanted Karen to know. This was only the beginning of her nightmare. The locksmith came before sunrise. I didn't sleep. I just sat on the front porch of my own damn house with a thermos of black coffee and a crowbar across my lap like it was the old days. Jack and Mario had crashed on the couches inside, snoring like bears. I stayed awake, watching the tree line, as if Karen might rise from the lake like some suburban demon queen, ready for round two. She didn't, but I wasn't taking chances. The guy from the security company arrived shortly after the locksmith. Mid-30s, sharp, quiet. He knelt by the exposed control panel with the kind of respect usually reserved for bomb defusal. You see this, he said, pointing at the wire harness. I leaned in. She didn't just unplug the system, she rerouted it. Bypassed the hub. That's not amateur work. Meaning someone knew what they were doing, or was following step-by-step instructions. Either way, the intention was to disable alerts without triggering the failsafe. He tapped the backplate, and these scratches, someone opened this panel multiple times. This wasn't a one-time hit. She's been doing this for weeks. My jaw clenched. She'd been in and out of my home more times than I knew. While I was working, sleeping, living my life. This wasn't trespassing. This was invasion, in the purest, filthiest sense. The technician glanced at me. Want me to run a full sweep? Hidden cams, signals, anything not standard? I nodded. Turn this place upside down. 3 hours later, I had a pile of evidence that looked like it came out of a spy movie. They found 4 hidden cameras, 1 in the bedroom wall, 1 in the office vent, 1 tucked into the molding of the living room bookshelf, and 1, disturbingly, above the showerhead in the guest bathroom. All hardwired, all feeding to an external cloud server under the name KJ Asset MGMT. The technician showed me the data logs. Last access 2 days ago. Probably Karen reviewing footage before the big event. Disgust boiled behind my ribs like acid. I imagined her sitting at home, glass of Chardonnay in one hand, laptop in the other, watching my house like it was her private zoo. "You're gonna want this documented," the text said. "Already in process," I muttered, snapping photos with my phone for the DA. Before the tech left, he handed me a small device. "Signal sniffer. It'll alert you if anything else starts broadcasting from inside the house." I thanked him. Not because it helped, but because it meant I had one less thing she could take from me. That afternoon, I met with my lawyer in person. Her name was Rachel Eng, former JAG. Sharp eyes, sharper tongue. When she read through the forged authorization Karen had waved at me during the party, she let out a quiet snort. "This is garbage." "Can we prove it in court?" "Oh, honey, I can prove this is a forgery while blindfolded and drunk. The notary listed here died 11 months ago. The address for the witness is fake, and the font on the signature line is Comic Sans." I stared. Karen forged a legal document in Comic Sans. Arrogance and incompetence make a powerful couple. She compiled everything into folders and sent digital versions to the district attorney's office. Then she leaned back in her chair. "You understand, if we push this criminally, she's looking at multiple counts: forgery, illegal surveillance, trespassing, tampering with security infrastructure, real estate fraud, and possibly, if we find any rental income, tax evasion." "Oh, there's income," I said. Rachel raised an eyebrow. "I spoke to 3 party guests who paid her cash. One of them thought he was renting the house through a premium listing service called Privy Stay. We checked. No listing." "Karen must have done it through email and word of mouth," Rachel typed furiously. "That's illegal commercial use of someone else's private property. We can bury her." "Good. But we need one more thing," she said. "A clean public win. Someone sympathetic who flips. She built this house of cards on social control and fake community goodwill. You break that, the rest crumbles." I knew exactly who that someone was. Joan lived 5 blocks away. I didn't call. I showed up on her porch. She answered the door like a prisoner expecting guards. "I'm not supposed to talk to you," she whispered. "Karen say that?" "She sent a lawyer. He told me to stop making statements against her without counsel present." "But—" She looked over her shoulder, then stepped outside. "She told me to lie," Joan said quietly. "Told me if anyone asked, I should say she had your permission, that you were out of town, and entrusted her with the house." "And did you?" "I did. But I feel sick about it. I didn't know what she was really doing." Joan's hands shook as she spoke. "Karen used me. She routed payments through my Venmo. Said it was just temporary, so HOA funds wouldn't be flagged. But now, police are asking questions. I didn't even keep most of the money. She kept 90%. I took a breath, steady and slow. Joan, if you testify truthfully, if you give us everything, emails, texts, payment records, you'll be protected. I'll make sure you're not the one going down for this." Tears welled in her eyes. I just wanted to be part of something. She made it feel like we were fixing the neighborhood. I nodded. Sometimes the fix is admitting we broke something. She agreed. On paper, in front of my lawyer, she signed the witness declaration that afternoon. Back home, I installed 3 new cameras, reinforced the deadbolts, and took a long look at my bookshelf, the same one that had hidden a spy cam until yesterday. Karen thought she was above rules, above ownership, above law. But what she really did was underestimate the wrong man. And now she had the beginnings of a perfect storm building over her blonde bob and over-processed self-righteousness. By the time the subpoenas landed, she'd have nowhere left to hide. The first sign she wasn't going quietly came 2 days later in the form of a letter slid under my front door. No stamp, no envelope, just a single printed sheet with a shaky header. Cease and desist notice, defamation, harassment, and interference with HOA authority. I almost laughed. It was written in Times New Roman, for starters, a clear departure from her beloved Comic Sans, but the body of the letter was pure Karen, bloated legalese, misused terminology, and enough passive aggression to power a mid-sized PTA meeting. She accused me of slander, libel, character assassination, and, my personal favorite, property manipulation with malicious intent. Rachel read it over and set it down without blinking. You could wipe your ass with this, and it would still be more legally valid. But I didn't laugh long, because what followed wasn't funny. Karen went nuclear. She started by weaponizing gossip. The next day, 3 neighbors I barely knew came up to me with long faces and awkward smiles, offering unsolicited advice like, escalation isn't always the answer, and maybe it's time to forgive and move on. One of them, an older guy, named Rich, who never spoke more than 2 words to me, looked deeply uncomfortable. She said you were trying to destroy her, that you've got PTSD, and it's making you paranoid. That one hit like a punch to the ribs. She also said you rigged your own security system to make it look like she broke in, he added, then quickly walked off. By evening, the HOA Facebook group was on fire. I didn't even belong to the HOA, but someone had added my name in a long post claiming I was a danger to community unity and militarizing local disputes. Karen had clearly written it. It even included a cherry-picked quote from me. I don't need a committee to tell me how to live, which I did say 2 years ago at a barbecue. After she told me my deck furniture was a visual disruption, I stared at the post, then closed the app. Fine. Let her play PR games. I had court dates, but then she upped the stakes. The next day, I got a knock at the door. 2 uniformed officers stood outside. One of them was Officer Blunt, looking extremely unhappy. Tom, he said, you've been named in a restraining order. My stomach dropped. For what? Karen filed it this morning. Says you threatened her life and attempted to intimidate her into silence. It's thin, but the judge approved a temporary order. We'll need you to come down, make a statement. Jesus Christ, I muttered. Mario, standing behind me, leaned in. Want me to threaten her for real so it's at least accurate? I waved him off. Blunt pulled me aside. Off the record, she's panicking. This isn't power, it's desperation. She's trying to muddy the waters before the DA files. And is it working? Not really, but it slows things down. That was the goal. Stall. Confuse. Delay. She knew charges were coming. She was buying time. And then came the break-in. It happened at 3:30 a.m., 4 days later. I was in bed. The new security system chirped once, then showed motion near the back door. I was on my feet instantly, heart thundering in my ears. I crept downstairs barefoot, flashlight in one hand, baseball bat in the other. I wasn't trying to be a hero, I just didn't want to shoot anyone unless I absolutely had to. When I reached the kitchen, I saw the silhouette of a man outside, crouching by the doorframe. He had a tool in one hand, some kind of slim Jim or crowbar, and was trying to pry open the reinforced lock. Idiot. The new deadbolt was reinforced steel, set into a frame that could withstand a car crash. I stepped into the light, bat raised. Wrong house, buddy. The guy jumped and ran like his pants were on fire. I chased him 2 steps, just enough to watch him leap into the passenger seat of a waiting car, and as it sped away, I caught a glimpse of the driver. Short haircut, wide mouth, nervous eyes. One of the guys from the party. The camera footage confirmed it. Same guy who said, Karen told us this was a community venue. Now he was trying to break in. Why? To plant something? Steal something? Or just to intimidate? Rachel had a theory. She's trying to create doubt, she said. If something goes missing or turns up on your property, she can muddy the narrative, cast you as unstable. Classic gaslighting. She's not trying to win, Rachel added. She's trying to collapse the board. If no one can trust anything, it all falls apart. But Karen wasn't the only one making moves. Joan called me that evening. I have something, she said. Her voice was steadier now. It's an email from Karen. It proves intent. She forwarded it to me. The subject line read, Backdoor Access Plan, DNR. Inside, Karen had outlined, in bullet points no less, how she could gain recurring entry into my house by resetting the Cloud Hub weekly, disabling external alerts, and using approved visitor status. Approved visitor status. Like she was listing herself on a guest list, she forged herself. There were lines like, he's too busy to notice. These men love their toys, but never check their logs. And my personal favorite, in time, no one will even question my presence. Rachel read the email 3 times. This is intent, motive, execution, everything the DA needs. But Joan had more. She made me scan your garage once, she said. Said she needed to know how much liability coverage you had. She wasn't asking to help. She wanted ammunition. My gut twisted. This wasn't about power. It wasn't even about control. Karen wanted ownership. She wanted to absorb me, my house, my reputation, my autonomy, into her little suburban empire, piece by piece. But now, her own empire was cracking. And when the subpoenas landed the next morning, the blast radius was massive. Phones rang across the neighborhood. Investigators began pulling HOA records, financial statements, meeting minutes, and Karen. Karen went quiet, too quiet, which meant one thing. The storm had officially begun. I always thought the real fight would happen in court. Turns out, the real war started on the internet. 2 days after the subpoenas hit, a video surfaced online. Blurry footage from someone's phone taken during Karen's community gala in my living room. It captured the moment I walked in, said everyone out, and the crowd started to boo. Karen's voice could be heard in the background, shrieking, "This man is not well. He's mentally unstable. Call someone before he hurts someone." The caption on the video, "PTSD psycho crashes his own house party." It hit 100,000 views in 6 hours. By noon, I had media emails, interview requests, and a new nickname online. Sergeant Shutdown. Someone made a TikTok remix of me yanking the Bluetooth speaker out of the wall to the beat of a club track. It was funny, until it wasn't. I started getting threats. A message in my inbox. "You should be locked up, you freak." A voicemail. "Veterans like you don't belong in neighborhoods with families." Karen was using the chaos as camouflage. She didn't need to win legally, she just needed to discredit me fast enough to poison the well. But I had a secret weapon, Officer Blunt. We met that afternoon at the sheriff's department. Blunt looked tired but focused, with a folder so thick it looked like it had its own heartbeat. "We've gathered enough," he said. "Karen's paper trail is worse than a drug dealer's. Emails, unauthorized payments, the fake trust she created to funnel funds. KJ Property Oversight Initiative. Seriously? She branded her own scam." I muttered. "Worse, she used HOA resources to do it. Names of members, access codes. In one case, she even used the HOA's printer to draft the forged authorization. She ran it through a community printer? She left a copy in the tray," Blunt said, deadpan. "That's the IQ we're dealing with." But even with all that, the DA was hesitant. Why? Because Karen had supporters. The kind of people who believed her, who felt grateful for her community work, who described her as organized and proactive and misunderstood. So Blunt said the words I'd been waiting for. "We need to go public." That night, I sat in front of a camera for the first time in years. Not for an interview, not for press. I went live. I told my story, calm, direct, without the rage that boiled under my skin. I showed the forged authorization. I showed screenshots of Karen's emails. I read the text where she called my home a wasted asset under poor management. Then I said it plainly. I served my country. I fought to protect the rights of people to live freely, safely, and without fear of manipulation. I never thought I'd be fighting for those same rights in my own backyard. But here we are. I didn't shout. I didn't curse. I didn't threaten. I just told the truth. And within 24 hours, the tides turned. The video went viral. Veterans groups reposted it. Homeowner forums shared it. Even some small-time news outlets picked it up under headlines like HOA Tyrant Forges Papers to Steal Vet's Home and Suburban Saboteur Faces Justice After Surveillance Scheme. Karen tried to respond with her own video, something filmed on her iPhone, clearly reading from a script where she blamed me for spreading division and dragging good neighbors into personal vendettas. It bombed. The top comment under her video was, "Ma'am, you grilled shrimp on someone else's patio and called it community service." Another one, "Veteran bad, HOA good." Okay, Karen. Then came the real blow. Joan went public. She contacted a local news station, sat down for an on-air interview, and broke down in tears as she described how Karen manipulated her, pressured her into lying, and promised her influence in exchange for her silence. She said if I didn't help her, she'd ruin me, Joan sobbed, but I was tired of being scared. She showed text messages, voice notes, the email about backdoor access. And with that, everything shifted. Karen's supporters vanished like cockroaches in sunlight. A few tried to backpedal publicly, claiming they were misled. Others deleted posts. The HOA Facebook group went dark for a full day. When it came back online, Karen was no longer listed as president. She resigned for health reasons. Right, but the final nail came courtesy of someone I hadn't expected. One of the guys from the party, the same smug 30-something who asked if we were the strippers, reached out. He'd seen the live video, said he felt like an idiot. She told us the place was being flipped, said the owner had given up. I didn't know she was lying. He handed over chat logs, dozens of messages from Karen sent to partygoers. It's mine now, basically. He's clueless. Just don't mess with the master bedroom or the camera light. The camera light. She knew. She knew which of my cameras was fake and which one wasn't. That was it. Rachel filed for intentional criminal surveillance evasion the next morning. Another felony. And the DA? He smiled. This is more than trespassing now. This is conspiracy. She's cooked. I stepped out onto my porch that night. Cold air, quiet stars, my own damn property. No music, no strobe lights, no HOA clipboard gremlin lurking behind a potted fern. Just peace. But it wasn't over yet. Karen hadn't been arrested. Not yet. And I knew her kind. People like her don't stop because they're wrong. They stop when the world makes them. And that moment was coming fast. I was in my kitchen eating reheated pizza when the knock came. 3 sharp raps. Not the hesitant tap of a neighbor, not the friendly knock of a delivery guy, the kind of knock that says you're going to want to open this door. I opened it. 2 plainclothes detectives stood there. One held a folder. The other had a look that could sand paint off drywall. Thomas Harper? Yeah. Karen Johnson's been arrested. I didn't blink, just stepped aside. Come in. They laid it out in detail, every count. Forgery of legal documents, illegal surveillance, unlawful entry, fraudulent representation of HOA authority, tampering with private security infrastructure, tax evasion on unreported rental income, conspiracy to defraud a private citizen. 7 charges. It sounded like music, the kind of song that starts slow, builds tension, and ends with a triumphant symphony of handcuffs. She was taken into custody this morning, the older detective said. No resistance, but she did try to cite her position in the community several times. Of course she did, I muttered. She also requested to call the mayor. I smiled. Did she? Sure. The mayor told her to stop calling. They handed me a printed summary of the charges, which I read slowly, savoring each one like it was the world's spiciest menu. Somewhere near the bottom was an addendum. Additional evidence provided by witness Joan Martins and civilian informant Cameron Wells. Cameron, the party guest who turned over the texts. Are they pressing charges? I asked. Joan, no. She's being treated as a cooperating witness. Cameron gave a full affidavit. You've got a solid wall of testimony. And then the final cherry. We traced the cloud server where the hidden camera feeds were going. Not only was it registered to a dummy LLC, KJ Oversight, but she accessed it through HOA Wi-Fi, logged in 6 times. So she committed federal cybercrimes. From a community center. She's not just facing state charges anymore, the detective said. We've looped in the FBI on the surveillance aspect. Some of the footage crossed into interstate data sharing. I exhaled slowly. That's a lot. Yeah, he said, she's in deep. Karen's mugshot hit the news the next morning. Her eyes were wide, her expression tight, like she'd just realized the wine budget wouldn't cover bail. The caption was surgical. Former HOA president faces multi-count indictment in property fraud case. The online comments were ruthless. I'd rather let raccoons run the HOA. She surveilled the shower, straight to jail. Imagine breaking into a Marine's house and thinking you'd win. The local paper did a full profile, tracing her history of complaints, fines, and neighborhood initiatives that had mysteriously resulted in upgraded patios for her closest allies. Turns out Karen's empire had been built on a foundation of fear, favors, and fake smiles. And now it was all dust. I testified a week later. The courthouse was full. Not packed, but definitely fuller than usual for a pretrial hearing. A lot of people came out of curiosity, some out of support. A few, I think, came to make sure Karen actually got charged. She sat across from me in a gray suit that didn't quite fit. No clipboard, no entourage. Just a woman who finally looked like what she was. Cornered. Her lawyer tried everything, claimed she had power of attorney, even though the document had already been proven fake. Tried to paint me as hostile, citing the cease and desist letter and restraining order, which the judge dismissed with barely a glance. When they brought up the party footage, Officer Blunt handed over the USB with the full body cam video. And when the surveillance footage came up, the room went quiet. The DA played a 10-second clip, just enough. Karen's voice from her laptop reviewing footage. Let's see what he's doing now. Idiot probably left the back door unlocked again. A gasp went through the courtroom. And then Joan testified. She looked Karen in the eye and said, "You used me. You used everyone. I'm done protecting you." Karen didn't look at her once. She just stared down at the table like it owed her a refund. After the hearing, I walked out into the sun. Reporters swarmed. I kept walking. Jack and Mario were waiting by my truck, leaning against it like bodyguards in jeans. "How was it?" Mario asked. She didn't even look at me. "Good, don't feed the rats." Jack handed me a coffee. "You see what the prosecutor said?" "No." He held up his phone. A quote from the DA. "We consider this case part of a broader pattern of predatory HOA behavior that has gone unchecked for too long. This is our line in the sand." A line in the sand. I liked that. That night, I stood in my living room, alone. Quiet. No music, no strangers, no staged lighting. I opened a beer, walked to the window, and looked out at the lake. Karen thought she could weaponize the illusion of order. That, by hiding behind rules and acronyms and community wellness, she could take what wasn't hers. She forgot the one thing Marines are trained to do better than anyone: hold the line. And when the storm comes, we don't back down. We dig in. Because sometimes the enemy doesn't come with guns or tanks. Sometimes they come with a clipboard and a smile, and you stop them the same way. 1 inch at a time. Karen took a plea deal. No drawn-out trial, no cameras in court. No chance for her to spin some final speech about community leadership. Just a quiet clinical session where her lawyer admitted guilt on her behalf. She avoided federal prison by the skin of her teeth, but not state time. 5 years. Probation barred her from serving on any board or HOA for a decade. They led her out of the courtroom in cuffs. She didn't look back. I think she knew better by then. The community, for a while, existed in a kind of stunned silence. Her little circle of allies disappeared. Lawn signs promoting her revitalization initiative were yanked overnight. People stopped bringing up the HOA like it was some sacred institution. Meetings got smaller, quieter, less smug. A few neighbors came by to apologize, awkwardly, nervously. I didn't know the full story. We were just trying to keep things peaceful. I nodded, said I understood. I didn't forget, but I let it go. That was enough. Joan got her life back. The DA made it clear she wouldn't face charges. She moved to a quieter town upstate. We exchanged a few emails. I told her she did the right thing. She said it still kept her up at night. As for the house, it's mine again. Fully and truly. The locks are new. The walls are patched. The cameras are mine, and they only watch what I let them see. Sometimes I still wake up thinking I hear bass thumping through the walls. But it fades. And now, when someone knocks on my door, it's just a neighbor bringing pie, or asking to borrow a rake, or maybe, just maybe, finally seeing me as more than a guy who keeps to himself, but as someone who drew a line and didn't let it break.